Hello, everyone. Jess Clair here with Tom Fortsmayer, the incredible Tom Fortsmayer again. We are live in Earth Elders. Hello, everyone. If you are jumping on, we're going to explore taking no responsibility in relationships tonight. Tom and I were talking about this, and just as he jumped on, we've had an interesting week. If you are jumping on, I'm just seeing who's jumping on. Let's have a look. If you are jumping on, please do say hello. Let me just have a look. For those of you that are in Earth Elders, please do say hello. I'd love you to contribute to this conversation. This is absolutely a conversation that we don't like to have on our own. We do like as many people as possible to contribute to this. If you are tuning in from Human Business Collective, please do have something to say about taking no responsibility in relationships. I'm very interested in this conversation. I want to start with a question for everyone that's listening. What does it look like to take responsibility for a relationship? And I'm exploring this because, as I said to Tom, if any of you have seen our shows before, we really explore all ends, but we're not going to go out there and say, oh, other people do this. We like to take our own, lives and kind of put that up to the plate and start to pull it apart and do the work. Hello, Nathalie. If you say Facebook user, I apologize. We can't see you because of StreamYard. Hello, Lindsay, if you are jumping on. So, Tom, and everyone who is listening and watching, what is taking responsibility in relationships? You know, because I told you about the relationship I really wanted. I'm single. And I was like, I really want this, but am I wanting this because I don't want to take responsibility? Is there some sort of level of me going, I want everyone else to do the work and not me? I want this sort of relationship to happen the way that I want. I want it to all be perfect. Is there something I'm missing here? What does it actually look like to take responsibility and be like owning this relationship? What is that?
It's a big topic, right? And I'm glad we're exploring it. You know, I mean, for me, it's like for anyone that watched it last week, you know, we talked a lot about conscious relationships, and I spoke, you know, quite passionately and openly about, you know, the level of commitment that comes, so that when your partner inevitably loses it and wants to blame you for their own happiness, for their own feelings, that you can hold steady in the face of that and just be committed to the love, be committed to growth, be committed to each other's ever-going development. But I think the core principles that make that work and taking responsibility is really understanding that how we feel is down to us. It's really, you know, we're not gonna get a good feeling because we've got someone good in our lives. You know, it's like we're responsible for living in such a way where we have a good feeling, and when we do that, we're much more able to be stable in the face of the inevitable complexities that relationship brings.
This is really great, right? And this is what I wanted to explore. And again, if you are jumping on, hello, Ashley. Anyone that is on Earth Elders, please do say hello. Please do join in to this conversation. We can see you jumping on and would love to interact. Someone says, hi, Tom's old teacher, lol. Okay. So I reckon, so maybe if you're like, it comes down to how I feel, I actually go, if I'm in a relationship where I don't feel good, I actually take that as an indication to get out. Huh. So, and this is where I'm like, so am I actually just not taking responsibility for the relationship? Because I'm like, if I'm not feeling good, that's actually, and I'm not feeling good because you're acting like this, and I want you to treat me like a goddess, and I want to be treated well, and you're not doing that. So because you're not doing that and I don't feel great, I'm out.
Yeah.
I like I said, I'm willing to explore this like fully authentically. So have a go for it.
All right. Okay. So I think, you know, I think it's likely when we get into a relationship with someone with whom it could be glorious, I think certainly in the beginning it can feel it can bring up so much stuff that isn't glorious, that if you're using your feelings as a barometer for correctness in that phase, it just might not be the most accurate tool. Whether you call that taking responsibility, it's like often when we meet someone who's really amazing and we really, really want to make it work and they seem to really like us and get us, then we're way more likely to care and to have fear and to behave terribly in the beginning, like terribly, because actually it's so loaded and it's such a big deal and it's such the one. So all of our sabotage comes up, all of our, am I really deserving? Am I really worth this? Have I really got enough value to hold this? And then when, of course, we have our fantasies of their perfection, which very early on slip, because, you know, they're human, and especially in a conscious relationship, we're trying to be open and honest about our failings. Then all of our fantasies, you know, the wound of our fantasies falls away, and we're left with, you know, a normal broken human trying to cobble together something that feels good. You know, it's like, and it's more choosing the person that you're willing to feel bad with.
Yeah, I think that's, and so Natalie's just asked me, yes, but why you're not feeling good? Is the other acting as a mirror to what is not working within? I would say yes. I mean, ultimately, anything that's sort of going on out here is a mirror to my own internal world, right? So it's yes, and I'm what I grapple with is I'm like, well, is this me not wanting to take responsibility for my own behavior, or do I look out there and go, I don't want that, so no? Like, I'm really grappling with this myself, right? I'm like, sorry, you go.
Lindsay's made a good point. She's like, well, there's a difference between not being treated well, right? And you know, if you're not being treated well, that's an issue. And temporarily, you know, that can happen because we're scared and we're pushing people away and we're, you know, doing our sabotaging and all of that stuff, you know. But it's like, as she says there, it's knowing the difference between, you know, feelings are not facts, right? And so it's then taking responsibility for our feelings involves analyzing, is this me? Am I imagining problems where they aren't? You know, I know from my particular woundings, I'm very ready to interpret my partner's behaviors as a lack of love or a lack of respect. But I've just got so used to that particular feeling in me that if I'm feeling that, I know at least a significant percentage of that is rooted in my past trauma and isn't necessarily about how my partner feels. They might not be treating me with respect in that minute, but can I hold on to the fact that I know that underneath it all, their own stress and strain and fear, that they think I'm awesome, you know?
Yeah. And this is where I come back to when you take responsibility for a relationship, and I really want to get this distinct. For me, it's like, I think someone said this to me, I don't do normal relationships. Like, for me, a normal relationship, when I say normal, is in some way society, and I'm going to tell you my view here, guys, is in some way we've normalized codependency. And that's what I mean. I just can't do that normal relationship. And when I say codependency, it's like, I want this from you. So I don't actually feel completely, you know, enough love for myself. So you've got to give me love, and it looks a bit like this. And if you don't give that to me, then I'm going to get angry and kind of demand it so that you give it to me. And then I get into this kind of relationship where it's like tit for tat. It's like, you give me what I need, I give you what you need, and then therefore you've solved the need, so I don't have to. That's what I call a tip, and I'm curious if you know. That's what I call like a typical relationship. Normal. What's what we've decided is normal. Could be wrong, just my view. So I don't want that. But I could be looking at utopia. I want this like totally independent. You have feelings, I have feelings. You're a jerk, I'm a jerk. You're a miracle, I'm a miracle. And at times you're going to see me be a jerk, and at other times you're going to see me be a miracle. And there's some real acceptance of that and honoring of that's what it is to be human. And in that mess, we're committed to actually working through it. And you're right, in the beginning, it's scary. It's kind of like we acknowledge that for each other. And then, it's like, but there's this space to just be a bit shit at times.
Yeah, for sure. We need that.
Yeah, but also being treated badly compared to that.
Well, I mean, how it's shit, how we are shit is when we're not treating ourselves and therefore our partners well.
Yeah.
Mandy Moo, brilliant point. She's just saying it's like it's always going to swing, but the swing should have balance to it. It's like, and when it's swinging in a certain way, that often involves your partner not treating us with respect. Being potentially even abusive. And obviously, we all have our boundaries, we all have our deal breakers, we all have our unacceptable things. But it's like, yeah, I think we should enter into relationships knowing that at least for a portion of a time, our partners are going to be awful to themselves and others, and difficult to be around, and directly inappropriate in our direction. That's like, just, they're human, right? That's a given. We're animals in suits trying our best to be civilized, right? So if you go in with your eyes wide open, expecting at least some portion of that, when it happens, the wheels don't need to fall off, But it's like, as opposed to independence and dependence or codependence, I like a phrase that was shared with me, which is interdependence. So it's two whole and secure people, stable in their own ways, enjoying the comfort and connection and satisfaction that can come from meeting each other's needs, but actually, our kind of structural security is not based on the other. So that when they wobble, we don't wobble. That's the key. It's like, if all of my hopes are built on the foundations of them, when they have a difficult moment, I'm fucked, And so it's having enough of our own independent power, Like, Nat says, if we have enough self-love, then we can weather those wobbles,
Yeah. So last week, I mean, this is a really great conversation, because last week we talked about the keys to the perfect relationship. I like this virtual bracket making me have black teeth. But we talked about the perfect relationship, right?
Yeah.
And then Tom said he should never have even talked about that, because the universe dealt him a set of cards straight after. He was like, what happened?
Oh man, so I was talking about the principles, and the perfect relationship, and I think it's really important I come on this week and make it really, really clear that I wasn't saying perfect relationship. And we did say this, it was about having no expectation of perfection, but still I said the foundation is about, locking the back door, throwing away the key, and having that level of depth of commitment that no matter how your partner's inappropriate, but you're not putting the foot out the back door every time that happens, and the ideal is that you love your partner as they are, that they are enough, and that the only desire you have for them to evolve or grow is because you love them and you can see that they would be happier if they did, but you're happy with what you've got, right? That it's not this, you're awesome, but I need you to be a bit more awesome for us to feel cool, and then I came out, and a number of my partner's doing loads and loads of work on herself right now, and there's loads of stuff that's up, as I am. And then, oh man, we were pulled into the worst argument we've been in for a long time. Awful. And it was deeply conditional, a transactional kind of relating, really painful. She went to a place where she kind of pulled apart everything I stand for, called me out on everything, and wasn't kind about it. And kindness is a value for me, which is high. And it was just like, oh, well, we actually questioned our being together on the very day that I've been talking about that. It's the one thing that you don't question. So then I was like, I'm now also a hypocrite, It's just like, I was like, I messaged you, I'm like, we're never, ever talking about
Yes, did.
ever again, because the universe has beat me up, But as always, what we did do is what we always do, which is we are committed to each other, and we licked our wounds, and we talked it through the next day, and we found our specific triggerings. We then held each other, we cried it out, we saw the pattern and another thing that needs to be healed. You know, we both did some inner child work. You know, we did the work. We excavated where the triggering came from, and we understand each other better now. We have a few new agreements, and yeah, we're like diving in ever deeper. And since then, we've actually felt probably more connected and had some beautiful moments of connection, because actually there was just some stuff building up. You know, we've been under a lot of pressure with lockdown, with 2 young kids and no other external help. You know, I think we've done incredibly well considering, but we needed a bit of a blowout, I think.
Yeah. Oh, well, I can't imagine actually what it's like to be with someone right now, like at home all the time. Yeah, I think that does put a lot of pressure on it. And I also did say to Tom, for those who are listening, I was like, I think it's important that we talk about, you know, I would consider your relationship with your wife and how you talk about it. You know, someone's laughing. Lol. I know, Arthur.
Nice to see you on.
Yes. Oh my God, this thing's happening in my head. And when I heard Tom talk about it, I was like, I think it's important that people hear that even the most conscious of relationships, you know, here you are a therapist with people working through their inner child, and you've got this, you know, beautiful partner that does a whole lot of work on herself as well. And yeah, you still have situations where you become uber human and you break. Yeah, it's like uber human. It's like you break those relationships, you break those agreements. And I noticed for myself, I'm always trying to fix that in me. The only time I'm ever going to be able to have a relationship is if I don't get angry, I don't get frustrated, and I don't react. When actually, you know, what I realize is what I'm really going to have to accept, not really going to have to accept, is like what I'm really standing for. I've already accepted, but I just haven't found, is being with someone that has the same values of me, of that is where I don't know how to say it any other way, guys. I'd be really curious to hear what you're going to say. Is we're going to be uber jerks to each other, and we're going to we're going to come back. We're both going to kind of, I talk about dropping into love. It does feel like this drop, and in that dropping into love, we will work it out together. We will own our behavior, and we will create again from a new place. Yeah. And I'm like, until I find that person willing, I don't know that I'm willing to be in a relationship any other way.
I think, you know, I mean, that's you know, what I cherish most about my relationship with Ria is that more than anything, we're actually more curious about psychology and madness than we are each other and relationships. So therefore, our relationship is a laboratory for what we're most passionate about understanding. And so once all the hurt's gone out of the way, we are legitimately fascinated in how fucking mad we are. And therefore, as friends, and we began as friends, we were friends for a decade before, which I think is beautiful, right? And so as friends with a shared passion for understanding psychology and connection, we're legitimately curious about what went wrong, so that we can understand it, you know. And with that level of curiosity and fascination in the inner world, then you've got communication. And with communication, when you can get to the place where you're not taking it personally, which takes a while, you know, then anything's possible, you know. So I think that's it's finding someone, you know, we share lots of values. We disagree on some things, but what we're able to do is definitely communicate. Right?
Yeah.
That's, we can, because, you know, we might talk things through and agree to disagree on some things, but it's but I have faith that I can actually bring anything to her, and I think she shares the same, she feels the same way. So it's that makes it possible, you know. But then of course, that's like when that one person you have that with is wobbling or attacking you, or, you know, it's really painful. It's, you know, it's like it's finding this kind of relationship is more painful when it's then troubled. And I think there's, you know, it's just so easy for people to leave things, you know.
Yeah.
It's so easy for people to leave things. It actually,
yeah,
in the beginning, it's often really painful. the first few fights in a relationship are terrifying because you don't know the rules. Like we spoke last time, you don't really know someone until you fought with them. And the first fight is like, all the crowns have slipped and everyone's being uber human, as you say. It's really scary.
Yeah, it really is. And I remember when I got the text from you when you were like, we're never doing this again. And you were really in it. You were really in it. And you're like, we're never using the word perfect in a relationship in the same sentence ever again. The universe is teaching me a lesson. And I was like, this is what we were talking about, is perfection.
I know, but still.
This is it.
Yeah.
But it's nice. It certainly doesn't feel that way.
What I mean is that when you publicly take a stand for that level of unconditional love, then you just go, okay, cool. Well, let's just see if you need to work a bit harder in that area. So I'm glad we did what we said. But I was drowning in irony. So Natalie's asked, can we talk about how your past relationships influence your behavior and reactions in your present relationships? So my take on that is the primary relationship in the past, which is the one that's most responsible for how you're acting out in relationship, is with your parents growing up. Now we then develop patterns of dissatisfaction and not being seen, not being heard, not being valued. And because we have that imprint of that value, we then go in our adult relationships and it gets repeated and patterned. So it's easy to think, oh, well, I was wounded by that one person when I was 20 and then that person when I was 26. And it's like, all of those are true, but we're probably attracting those people or behaving in those ways, those patterns played out, because we've got a primary wound in our initial relationships with our parents, which I believe everyone has. It's not do you, it's just to what degree do you. Yeah.
And in terms of just listening to what you're saying, right? I feel like relationships are super present for me. And as you're saying that, because I've just come out of one fairly recently, not really, but it was a very meaningful relationship for me. But it was like a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and what was right there at the end of that relationship for me was there is unhealed trauma for me with my mum that I got to see that I never knew was there. So in terms of past relationships, what it informed was there's still a lack of acceptance of me and my own self that's still coming through in my relationships.
Yeah.
There's still, I shouldn't get angry. There's still, I should in some way be perfect. Like never react. Of all this work I've done, of all, here I am on social media and I'm preaching great relationships and having conversations and evolving thinking and doing all this great stuff. And yet in my intimate relationships, even this past one, at a time when this person needed me, I reacted in a way that didn't work for them and they didn't like that. And it was a deal breaker for them and we broke up. And then I take that and go, I take that personally. And then I go, well, there's obviously something I need to do and fix in myself to make sure this never happens again. And then I take that along with me.
It's a really hard thing, isn't it? Because the only thing we need to fix is the idea that there's something that needs to be fixed. Yeah, we allow the imprint of our childhood to let us believe that we're not perfect. And because we believe we're not perfect, or because we're still reeling from the pain, we develop strategies to manage relationship because we don't either feel valuable enough or we don't feel safe enough, right? So then we're operating from the I'm not perfect ideology. Then we've got all these strategies, and all those strategies basically make relationships fuck up, right? So we are playing out problems that cause trouble, right? And so it's this really weird thing of like, I am doing something which is problematic, built on the idea there's nothing wrong with me, and yet the deepest truth and the most healing truth is that there's nothing wrong with me. And unfortunately, if those things fuse, then we're like, well, I shouldn't need to change or shouldn't need to take responsibility for seeing how my patterns are causing trouble, because I know I'm perfect and beautiful and I should be loved for who I am. It's like, yeah, but who you are isn't the strategies that you employ to control what it is to be in relationship with someone who's, feels deep down that they're not really going to be safe, or they're not really seen, or, you know, it's like that will perpetuate problems.
Yeah.
So it's this paradox of things not going, oh, I need to be fixed. It's like, I need to fix the idea that I need to be fixed, and the strategies I've built around that to make me feel safe in love, which are usually conditional stuff that we place on others.
And this is where I'm stuck, right? Because I listen to that and go, is that, so you're saying the only thing we need to fix is the idea that we need to be fixed. But then at the same time, what we're saying is, but you actually, as a human being, always going to think you need to be fixed at some level. You're going to react. Things are going to come up. You're going to be, you call a twat. But isn't that exactly the stuff that we're talking about anyway?
No, because here's the big difference, right? So here's the big difference, right? So let's say my partner does something, right? And I have a reaction, right? I have a reaction because I'm human and I've dipped into my twatdom, right? I'm an animal in a suit and I'm still territorial cave person who's scared about not surviving the winter, right? So my adrenal system can kick in. I'm energized. I'm angry. I'm ready to attack, right? But there's a massive difference between having that triggering and being the twat, right? So for me, it's like the you know, and it will spill over sometimes. That can happen, right? But if we have a conversation and we have a value system where we know if it's spilling over, then it is just trauma, and I should just hold steady until my partner calms down and they can own it and apologize, and then we can explore what happened and do the necessary round of healing on the parts, right? But really, for me, yes, of course, I'll always be driven to act from my caveman, or to be angry, or to be possessive or proprietorial, right? But my work is to be able to feel that anger, honor it, understand it's about self-love and protection, but not act from it. It's to talk to it and to even express it. So maybe I take my partner outside and she watches me beat up a kickbag, and I'm like, okay. And then I have a cry. And then I'm like, you know what? I just think I just felt really triggered there because of this, you know? And she's like, cool, darling. That's a big difference from me pointing my finger in the face and going, you made me feel so fucking small. It's like, that's not possible. I can only do that to myself. So we'll still feel small and we'll feel drawn to be a twat. But whether we express it and make the other person responsible for it, you know, that makes a massive difference.
And so would you say that you never, like this someone said, wouldn't that be anger management issues in you then, acting on the anger? So are you saying that you will never act out? You will experience it, feel it, and never act it out?
No, definitely not. I'll say I will act it out. But ideally, my partner and I understand that if I am, that is what's happening. It's not personal to them. But
right. So there's that distance in.
Yeah, it's right. Well, what we found out is actually the first response we got to in our relationship was that I would say, you are now acting out and I don't need to be exposed to this, so I'm going to go. Right? And we found out that was way more triggering for both of us, actually. And the best thing to do is like, I'm not going to go anywhere, but I want us just to sit together and to pause it right now, because what's happening right now is abusive or offensive. And I know it's only coming from pain, but I shouldn't need to be exposed to it. I'm not an emotional kickbag, but I'm not going to depart.
Yeah, right. That's an agreement you made, right?
Yeah, and at times it's rare that we're able to manage that, you know, but it's like, for me, it's like understanding the principles that work around nonviolent communication, and then, you know, having a lot of patience when it inevitably spills over. But it's having that primary total certainty that I'm responsible for how I feel. My feeling of safety, my feeling of, you know, value belongs to me and can't be impacted by whether someone's treating me well or not. Now, I might choose to ask them to treat me differently because of what I want in my life, but it's less about need and it's more about compatibility and want. That would be the idea. But of course, of
course the wheels fall off. But what I'm hearing you say is, and I think Angela's just asked that too, even with acting out anger, there are healthy boundaries still, right? Here's what I can hear the difference between abusive relationships and a healthy relationship is. Because I think, look, as far as I'm concerned, everyone's looking at this like, what is it? Domestic violence is getting thrown around a lot, right? I like, at some level, I actually am glad that we're now very aware of poor behavior that we don't deserve at a really heightened level.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think we grapple as a society, this is a generalization, but I do think we're currently grappling with, okay, how do we create healthy then? Yeah. So and then there's this, I hear this a lot, narcissism and abuse. There are actual extreme cases of it, but there is also just people having relationships that are quite normal now, not doing the work and calling that narcissist abuse.
Yeah, well, this is a really, really big distinction, that between egoism, right? So everyone is narcissistic. Everyone is narcissistic. Yeah. You have an ego structure, you have narcissism. That's the desire to be seen well and a kind of overinflated interest in who we are and how we turn up in the world, right? It's like everyone has that, right? And there's a massive difference between the psychological term, that, and the psychological term of being a narcissist, which is hitting a diagnostic statistical kind of relevance around a number of markers, which means you have narcissistic personality disorder, which is a very specific thing. It's actually quite rare and it's bandied around a lot. What people really mean is,
oh no,
right? That's really common. Now, of course, narcissistic abuse and narcissism.
We just lost you for about 10 seconds then.
Okay, fine. So I was just saying there's a big difference between having a partner who can be a twat and having a partner who's a clinically diagnosed person with narcissistic personality disorder, which is a very specific thing. It's very extreme.
It is. I actually have a friend whose partner had it, and he had, it was really quite traumatizing for him until he discovered it. And he would say he would do things like put salt and pepper shakers on the table, and then his partner would remove them, put them in the cupboard, and then he'd go, oh, where did they go? And she'd go, what are salt and pepper shakers? And this was a compulsive act for her. So that is the kind of action of a narcissistic personality disorder, right? Causes, as you can imagine, makes someone really question things that are really happening, not happening. Whereas I think what we're starting to do is, as we discover these healthy relationships, and I mean, this is me included, I've even looked at my own behavior and gone, am I abusive? Am I narcissistic? I'm upsetting people. So I think what I'm doing is expressing myself, but, I'm having this impact, and it's not okay with me that I'm having this impact, but what do I do with it? But what I can see is that this is just my view again, but what I can see is what I really, really see as a healthy relationship is two parties coming to a table and two parties getting that in a relationship, you're feeling all this stuff. In an intimate relationship, I'm feeling I'm feeling scared. I'm going to get hurt. I'm feeling afraid. I'm feeling love and joy, which in itself is terrifying because the moment I have it, I've got all this past that tells me I'm going to lose it. I've got partners that have left in my past. I've got stuff from my childhood at times around abandonment that maybe I haven't quite dealt with. I think we've already talked about that, right? There's all this human-y stuff going on with me. And so at some level, I need to own all that. That's all mine. I don't want to give that to anyone else. It's all mine. However, what I do expect in a healthy relationship is some level of interest and curiosity and compassion for that I have a whole lot of human-y stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I just want someone to meet me there. You don't have to own it. It's mine. But recognize it's actually not yours. It's mine to own. And this isn't, this.
Okay,
how do we do that?
Okay, so
am I making sense?
Yeah, you're making total sense. I think there's a distinction. Suzanne, I love what she said there. She says, many reactions have changed so much in me after clearing my own triggers and loving that part of me. And so here's the deal. It's like my partner owning her stuff is not enough. She has to be actively working on bringing less of that stuff to the table, right? Because it's the only thing that's going to work. Now, I'm saying I love you as you are, but it's like I'm not asking you to work on yourself, right? But it's like I couldn't imagine being able to manage a conscious relationship unless someone was actively looking at their triggers and doing the healing on what's driving that trigger. Because then you just got conscious awareness and no change. That's more painful. And it's like, so we can be endlessly patient with someone who's like, oh, I have this thing and it's a real challenge and it comes from here and I've got these steps in place to reduce it. And it's just like, oh man, I will journey with you for billions of years because you're human and you're working on how to be more in your divine representation, you know. And it's like I'll hold that all day long, right? And instead someone's going like, I'm upset because you're not doing this and you're not doing that. It's like, and then the next day they're still holding that position. It's like, no, I was just really triggered and I'm sorry. And I'm currently working on that being less. And that's, for me, it's seeing that progression. It's like, okay, well, you know, when we first got together, when you got angry, you used to say really mean things designed to hurt. Truth can be painful enough. You don't need to then go for my jugular, you know, in ways that you don't even believe. You're just saying mean things to hurt my feelings, you know. And it's like, but if I can see that's happening less, then I'm on board. This is working, we're working on our things, and it's like, and so owning our stuff, I think it is about taking responsibility for dissolving the triggers, just as Suzanne has described there, so that we're then able to be truly present to who we are and to how we are, because that is that work that brings us to more self-love. And the more self-loving we are, the more present we can be and the more beautiful everything gets. But it's like, I don't think it's enough just to go, oh yeah, well, I get triggered around that stuff. It's like, yeah, well, what are you going to do about that? Because you're stinking up the joint,
Yeah, so okay, this is really interesting, right? Because in the first instance, and I do know that two things can be true. In the first instance, you're saying, but I love you the way you are and you're perfect and you just be you and I want you to be better for you, but it's not for me because I love you the way you are. But on one hand, it's like, actually, what comes with that as well is a commitment to you actually owning your own triggers and always actively working on diminish or actually having them not disappear, but in some way recognizing them, becoming more and more self-aware of what they are, catching them.
And so for me, it's like, it's not me saying I need you to work on that shit for me to want to be with you, right? That's the worst thing, because that says I don't love you as you are, which is the biggest wound creator. So it's like, for me, it's like, if this is as good as it gets, then I'm in, right? I love you as you are, right? And I would love it to be easier. And for you, I would love you to be happier in yourself. So working that. But for me, it's more about a core compatibility thing. It's like, I know I'm not going to be endlessly curious and excited to be with someone who isn't as passionate about their own personal growth. So that comes with it. It's not like I need that in terms of I need you to behave better. It's like, I need to be with someone. My value, my non-negotiable is being with someone that is passionate about their evolution. Otherwise, half the things I talk about are going to bore the fuck out of them. No, 75% of things I talk about, for me, it's like, that's a core compatibility. I want someone who's passionate about working on themselves because it's a blast,
Yeah. I think I just have to own, I'm mind boggled. I'm like listening to you going, do you know, this is so funny. I'm going to own the meaning I'm making of everything you're just saying.
Right.
Is I'm screwed.
But you have all the ingredients to make it work, right? I mean, I did suggest doing some inner child work, and I did see a post you put out which was like, fuck all your inner child work or something like that, and it made me laugh, right? So it's like,
I know, obviously only someone needing to do inner child work could go, fuck inner child work.
So like, it's like, here's the thing, like, are you doing the work? Because you're like, I want someone that's doing the work, but I know you've worked on yourself loads, but it's like, in this area specifically, how do you expect to have this glorious relationship if you're walking around with this mother wound? I mean, it's like, it's not going to work.
I'm about to go into a 5-day retreat, a shamanic 5-day retreat, and already this stuff is coming up. So I know that it's getting dealt with in that retreat. I think I'm impatient, and I actually just think I'm sad that that this past relationship ended, and there's just probably still some upset around that. So I think I just have to be real about that. But I think, maybe on reflection, just listening to what you've said, I don't think I really did own that. And I think I was like, I want a great relationship and I want this and I want that. And then we get triggers and I was like, we're human beings, too bad. This is going to be the way that it is. I'm never going to change. Trying to really stand for just love human beings. Like for me, everything is about loving a human being just for being human. Like I just love human beings. I feel like I could fall in love with anyone because I just see humans. And just how much I desire to have that kind of deep connection and love back. Like I want to find someone that just really loves humans and loves me and sees me, right? But in the trying to create that, what I actually created was just deal with me the way that I am.
Yeah, which is not. Who would sign up for that?
Well, she didn't.
Right. It's like,
and I get it. Yeah.
We want someone that wants to love us as we are, right? But I don't want to be in a relationship with someone that says that to me. I want to be in a relationship with someone that says, like, I am turning up and every day I'm going to be frail and fragile and human and messy, but I'm committed every day to turn up and be my very best. Yeah. That's what I don't want them to say, this is it. Right? I want to bring to them, I'll love you as you are. I don't want to come to me and say, listen, this is it. This is as good as it gets. I'm going to put my feet up now and relax, right? I'm developed enough, right? That's what it feels like. It's like,
No, that wasn't that. I know that's what it sounds like. That's not what I meant. And it's more like humanity is humanity. Like you can't escape it. I'm going to deal with this mother wound, this 5-day retreat. And then like you said, and then next week it's going to be something else.
For sure.
A different one.
It's not a promise of everything.
It's next level, next level, next level, next level, next level. It's like I haven't ever arrived and there's no certificate for consciousness. You have now reached A levels consciousness. You are now stamped.
I give a diploma.
Enlightened. You have now got the stamp of enlightenment.
Yeah, I'll give you a diploma for that. That's mine. That's done. I'll write a diploma for you for that. Of course, it's never ending, right? But we want someone who's like, I'm never ending my evolution, and I'll continue to evolve with and for you. And I'm gonna stand for myself and you. And some days will be awful, and some days will be glorious. Like I love it. You say we're a jerk and a miracle all at once, right?
Yes.
Lovely.
Now I'm having that like.
Some beautiful comments here.
I know.
Reciprocity. Christy saying, about her partner, I think we were sent to each other so we could heal to our fullest extent. That is every relationship. That is every relationship. It's a relationship is not for pleasure. Relationship is for growth. And for me, I think the ultimate deal breaker is just being with someone that gets that. That's not going to stop them being a jerk. Someone being into growth doesn't make them less likely to be a jerk, It probably does a bit, but it's like, it's just understanding if they're being a jerk on that day and it bothers you, then there's something being asked to be healed in you. And it's that simple. There is no ordinary moments. There's nothing which is outside of a divine opportunity. It's all a reflection of how free are you, how loving are you, how stable are you in your value. So if someone's loving on you or hating on you, either way, it's a blessing to confirm your alignment, or it's an opportunity to do deeper healing. It's like, it's all love.
It is. Now I'm deep in thought.
I just want to say that I want to comment on some of these comments, but I have insecurity about knowing how to pronounce some of the names here. And so therefore I can't call out and say, hey, you know, thank you for that comment, because I've known it, and then it melts in my brain, and so then I'm not saying it. So
like Tiora Nui Karaka.
Tiora,
I call it Tiora.
yeah.
She's a long time listener.
Amazing. She's making brilliant comments, and then I go to say her name and I worry I'm going to get it wrong, so I don't. So thank you. I just wanted to own that, and thank you for clarifying it.
Yes, thank you, Terrell. Thank you. Who else is Tamsin, Christy, total jerks and total love. I do like that. Okay. So where to from here? It's almost 10 o'clock, and taking it. We're taking it back to taking responsibility in relationships, and what, you know, if I always like to sort of sum up what is being said. Firstly, it's accepting that this distinction between abuse, and I'm not talking about actually domestic violence situation where there's physical abuse and there's actually, you know, domestic DVOs in place. I think it's, again, I just want to reiterate, I think it's actually very important as a society we've evolved to not tolerating this sort of behavior. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're sort of in a place where we're also discovering healthy relationships. Mm-hmm. So I'm not talking about these overly violent ones, although at some point I do think that at some point I do think that we need to include and have compassion for and start to hear and see some of the people that are acting out in violent ways, because personally I believe they're not being heard. But putting all of that aside, when we're talking about healthy relationships and taking responsibility, what I can hear is having it sounds like agreements, having these agreements, sharing actually together what you're going to do as like a plan, being able to own your own humanity and what there is for you to grow in, your own triggers, being in the conversation of exploring that, and then some agreement for, if I do act this out, it's got nothing to do with you, and let me do the work myself and go away and deal with that.
And if you can hold steady for that, awesome. And if you can't, then it has got something to do with you, because it's speaking to something unhealed and unresolved in you. And the quicker we work on triggers, the less I'm likely, here's the thing, the less I am likely to be a twat if you have worked through your disappointments. And that's the thing about taking responsibility. It's like, if we have unresolved wound, we will either attract to us that will not treat us well, we will perceive they're not treating us well when they actually are, or we will put out such a strong projection field that those people will then end up treating us badly, even though they wouldn't have had it not been for our unresolved trauma. And it's like, that's ultimately taking responsibility. How is my pattern playing out here? How am I like pulling this out of my partner? That doesn't mean we're in any way responsible for how a partner treats us, because if someone tries to pull out from me being a bully, if I choose to go there, then that's my responsibility. But it's understanding, what am I bringing to the table, like a big magnet for misery? And how am I actually twisting people out of shape because I don't believe I'm lovable, or that people won't see me or be there for me, you know? And it's like every day thinking about, what are my beliefs and how are they changing shape around me? And what am I pulling out from within people? Am I in my lovability and therefore allowing them space to adore me? Or am I in my unlovability and putting out an energy by which they will be attracted to condemn me?
It's so great what you're saying. And I think it's recognizing the courage that it actually takes as well to sit there and go, how am I pulling these behaviors out in you right now? I mean, that takes courage to think about that.
All responsibility is ultimately, on one level, it's like the greatest news in the world. It's like, I am totally responsible, right? Because then we have power, right? We have freedom, you know, we can create. But then it takes away all of our excuses, it takes away all of our cozy blankets. Hey, Jess, it takes away everything that protects us from the pain of our frustrations. And it's like, you know what? I don't want that. I don't want the anesthetics of a lack of ownership, you know? I want full responsibility, because it gives me freedom. It gives me the possibility to create new meaning and create new possibility. And when I'm not feeling good, owning why I'm not feeling good, no matter what my partner's doing, because it's speaking to something that's unresolved. If I can just have faith in that, every dynamic is co-created between two people. And so whatever's happening is a collaboration, it's a co-creation, and it speaks to whatever's unresolved in us. If it's not feeling good, it's speaking to something unresolved on both sides of the dance. It has to be.
Oh, sounds so great. Sounds so great. Hello, Jess. Sounds so great.
So someone's just said there, I have such deep beliefs about being unlovable. It's hard for my partner to love me. And it's not only hard for them to love you or for you to feel loved by them. It's if you've been in a relationship with someone that won't receive your love, it's painful. It's like having a gift that's ungiven or sent back or unopened. It's hard. We all want our love to be received. And so, getting beyond the self-sabotage, the department that's pushing away love, often it's not that we have a deeply held belief that we're unlovable. It's that we have a department that wants us to believe we're unlovable, because it makes excuses for the fact that we were not having our needs met when we were younger. So if we can go to the wound when our needs weren't met, we no longer need to perpetuate the idea that we're not lovable as a way of protecting ourselves from past trauma. So if we can dive into the feelings of not actually having been looked after properly, recognizing our true value in that, and really feeling the grief associated with that, and therefore no longer needing to make it our fault, then we're able to no longer need to tell ourselves we're not lovable, and that creates the space for us to then give and receive love fully and freely.
100%. Another thing, I remember doing a course, which, I'm unlovable is also a story I have, right? It's a conversation I call it's like right here. And I do grab onto it, and I am in it sometimes, and sometimes I'm not. And when I got distinct that conversation, how it looks and how it plays out, and also got that it was an unanswerable question that my brain spits out. And what I mean by that is it asks me, am I lovable? Am I lovable? It's like asking and then looking for evidence of it out here somewhere in how my partner is acting. Now, if my partner is acting not great and is not having a great day, then that question will come back, no. Or if I look at my bank balance at that moment where I'm saying, am I? And I haven't worked hard enough and then I'm a no, right? So the circumstances start to dictate whether I am or not. But once I got that it was an unanswerable question, meaning my brain is going to continually ask that question almost for the rest of my life. Like it's just going to spit it out. Every now and then something's going to happen and it's just going to spit it out. And when I got that distinct, I got to not listen to it. It just kind of just is there, but I don't listen to it. Now that, I saw it as this sort of unanswerable question, but it continues.
I've got to disagree with you there, darling.
Oh, okay. It's got to happen eventually.
I know. Finally, we've actually got something we disagree about.
I know.
What you've done there is you've maintained it. You've created a system that enables that not to be less of a problem, right? But I believe that thought is generated by a department in us that wants to believe we're not lovable, because it makes sense of why we didn't get our needs met before. When our needs are not met when we're little, we create this defensive department, which is it's a protector, but it's our sabotage department. And it's basically like, no, I didn't deserve it. I'm not lovable. And then, okay, fine. My needs weren't being met. So it's okay. I can idolize my parents. I can feel shit about myself. Now it's a solution. It's a temporary solution, but it builds a department in our psychology called the self-saboteur. And that part it's worse than it doesn't want us to feel lovable. So it will ask that question at the most opportune moments when the answer will be no. It's seeking evidence to support that we're not lovable. It's a really, when you can understand that our value is not low value, it's that we have an aspect of our psychology which is actively trying to denigrate us, actively trying to put down our value, actively trying to block success, push away people that would really love us, and get in the way of things working. Now, you can hate on that part, but when you really understand why is it doing it, why does it want to believe I'm low value? It's because if you can believe you're low value, then you don't need to feel the bigger trauma of the fact that you were let down and that you actually had childhood realizations that your parents weren't perfect. Now, there's nothing more fucking heartbreaking for a kid to realize. And so the thing that cures that is being willing to feel that disappointment in our parents, like the unspeakable wound. And when that is felt, there is no need for a self-sabotage department anymore, and it goes away. And it's the department is repurposed, and it starts protecting you in other ways. And so it's like it's there for a really beautiful reason. And instead of fighting it or pushing it away, like you're kind of, I don't have to listen to it. It's like, no, listen to how much it wants you to think you're shit. It's not just asking the question, it wants to. And if you can get into the vibration and feel that it has a desire to hurt, to hold back, to limit your potential, when you can understand and feel that desire, like, why would you want to do this? Like, well, because if I'm not shit, then what the hell was that all about? And then you access the deep trauma of the letdown. And if you can feel that disappointment purely, there's no need to blame yourself. You just say, it's hurt, it's painful. You realize it wasn't my fault. All children are, and all humans, they're equally deserving of love. Nothing needs to be earned anyway. And so then all the forgiveness work we've done and our spirituality work we've done, and we've contextualized our parents' failings. We've done all that. That's all good to go. But it just needs to get beyond that one part of our psychology that actually wants us to blame ourselves. And when we can get the other side of that and feel the deeper wound of having been abandoned, let down, and the deeper wound of a little kid going, actually, I don't think I really like them, or I'm actually really disappointed in my mum. That's so painful for a 4-year-old to feel. And when we can just and it's important for it not to be reasonable, not to justify it, not to contextualize it, just to feel that. And then we can understand it and forgive them and see that they did their best, and that, all of that stuff comes later. But first, and I know I used a strong word there around cure, it's a big word, but it's like there's a really important reason why that department exists. And that department can be dissolved and those parts reintegrated, so no one's being fired, and your protector can then protect you by helping you develop your value and look after yourself and have self-care and all these other things. So it's like, but the fact that we have a department that pushes away compliments, messes up opportunities, doesn't let us really truly receive, that can be cured by feeling the primary disappointment.
Okay. Well, I'm extremely curious about that, because I must admit I don't believe you.
Well, you know what? Good news, because that would explain a lot of what's happening.
Yeah, and look, I'm open to it, and potentially it's the thing that's come up leading up to this retreat anyway. So I'm going off to retreat for 6 days now.
Take that, explore it without needing it to be true. But the only scientific way to assess something is to explore it fully, and at the end assess it, right?
Yeah. Well, that's right. And I'm all about taking things on, right? So I'm going to try that on, and I'm not saying I am saying actually right now my brain is like more like, I've done so much fucking work, Tom. And here's what I came to. I've done so much. I've done 6 years. I've done bloody embodiment. I've done this. I've done that. Oh my God, could I transform any more? And I'm sure if I haven't dealt with some little inner fucking child, it would have come up by now.
I promise you this, okay? And I'm gonna stand here. I've been working in this field for 20 years. I do inner child work on myself every week, right? And it's about integrating my awesomeness and my freedom. It's not about healing some problem. But I guarantee you this, I've worked with people for 20 years, and in those years, I can't tell you how many times I've heard the words, I've been working on myself for years, but if I'd known this has been a total game changer, right? I've heard it so much. People have been in therapy for years. This one thing is, for me, the most important thing that I could bring to the world is an understanding of how we're blocking ourselves on purpose for really beautiful reasons, and they can be changed. And understanding this one thing around the beauty of the self-sabotage department and what it's trying to do and what it's protecting us from. And the reason why people resist it is not because they don't logically like it or because they've done lots of work. It's actually the fact that usually people don't want to actually go and feel that 4-year-old's disappointment. So we'll say anything at this moment, anything to not do that piece of work. We've done loads of work, but not that one, not the 4-year-old's disappointment in its mum. That's the big piece.
Okay. Well, I'm about to do four days of it.
Go, right? But here's the thing. So just final thing, right? If something's healed, then we have no resistance to looking at it whatsoever. None at all, because it's healed. It's like jabbing a finger into a scar, which is completely, it's just scar tissue. It doesn't hurt. But if it's still open, the idea of looking at it is unbearable.
Yeah.
Jess is saying all sorts of things, all right?
You know, give your inner child a hug. Thank you. Who's that? Rihanna. Thank you.
Yeah,
and what I just said.
Feel the heartbreak.
Oh, this is Peter. What did Jess say? It doesn't discriminate. Last week I got triggered as fuck and I've gone so deep. There is always another layer. That's why I like to think. Yeah. Okay. I've been doing self-development for decades. This work shifts things on a different level. Yeah. Yes, we can change. Born in 1953. Oh, that's my mum. My mum's age.
Thanks, Jess.
I love listening to you. Thank you, Jess. All right. Well, I'm very, very excited to see what comes out of, this, and I'm doing it for my work, because it's like taking my work and all my message and the mission that I'm on and the leadership that I'm out to create in the world. I'm like, well, I can't be having these kind of beliefs that I'm like, anything's possible, except for me, except for me in relationship. I don't know.
I have to dash as well. I have to dash. Sending you much, much love, and everybody.
So much love.
Christy, Tamsin, Jessica, Facebook user, which is what I see.
I know we got Peter, Rihanna, Terrell, everyone who has tuned in. If we haven't counted out your name, thank you so much. And I'll be post retreat. It won't be next Tuesday. It'll be the Tuesday after, because I'm in the retreat. So
no problem. Okay, love you.
I will love you. See you guys in a fortnight. Take care. Bye.
Bye.